I'm Jessica Valant. I'm a physical therapist and Pilates teacher. So I have Jessica Valant Pilates. That's where you'll find me. And then also I'm the founder of Momentumfest. So those are the two things that I do for the most part.
Yes. It is Momentum Fest season,
Yes, it is.
hence the 12 o'clock bedtimes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And I think it's figuring out, which I know everybody is doing, but how figuring out how something that had kind of proven itself in a pre-COVID world, um,
Mhm.
how to translate that now into a post-COVID world. I think that's the not only logistics, I mean, the really specific logistics of it, but also how to communicate with people. Like it's a whole different thing. What maybe felt important before doesn't feel important in messaging now. And what do people
Yes.
need from us and how can we give that? It's a
Yeah.
lot in that aspect, just making sure that we are doing the best for the people who need the support.
What do you feel like in your heart, like just from the conversations that we have day to day and from the people who follow you online and the posts that you have, what do you feel is the main message you want to get across with Momentum Fest this year?
I think I keep coming back to this. Maybe two things. One, we're going to be okay. Like,
Hmm.
it's okay. Like, whatever this looks like, I don't know. But I know that's what I've wanted someone to tell me for 14 months is just,
Yes.
it's going to be okay.
Hmm.
Like a big old hug, like a big event hug. You're good.
Yes.
That's one. And then two, that really we're okay and we can be better when we're together. Um,
Yes.
I think those are the two things that and again, maybe it comes back to that's what I want and that's what I feel we all need to hear a little bit. And
Yes.
I realize for people who don't need that, those are the people that maybe don't need to be at Momentum Fest. You know, if they're the ones who are like, hey, I don't necessarily need the community. I'm totally awesome at home and doing my thing on my own and I am in my lane right now, nothing, then maybe those are the people who awesome, keep doing your thing. But for
Yes.
those who are ready to look people in the eyes again, not just by screen, or for those who really want to be on screen and realize, gosh, there's more things out there that I've missed. Like I'm in my
Yes.
basement now.
Yes.
um, bringing together a community that I love that can feel fractured, and just to tell everyone, hey, I think we are going to be okay, and let's start. We have to start somewhere, and
Yes.
if we can start with this, then let's do it.
Right. Right. The times that I've been in a funk and someone told me it's gonna be okay, I flat out didn't believe them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, my life sucks right now. I don't believe you on that. Like, but I just know that they had that life experience, and if I just would be still, I'd recognize that they actually over time were right.
Yeah. And I think for me, this is something I really had to dig deep and figure out over the past 14 months. Like the first few months when my anxiety was off the charts, I,
Hmm.
I need to figure this out because I don't think the situation's going away and I still have to be a really good mom, like maybe better than ever. I still have to be a good business owner, better than ever. So I need
Yes.
to figure out my stuff right now. And
Right.
I realized I got into Enneagram work. Have you ever looked into the Enneagram or anyone?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was just like my own therapy, I think, during the beginning.
Mhm.
And I realized I just fit right into the category where I like predictability and planning, which this is what I can't do. And so I'm the same. I just wanted someone, I didn't need to know all the answers, but I wanted to know it was going to be okay at the end.
Yes.
And sometimes you can't have that. So it's almost like that internal cultivating success you talked about. Internally, I just have to believe that universally it is going to be okay. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. I feel like the world's on fire right now and people are hurting and that's so hard. I don't know how it's going to be okay.
Hmm.
But for me personally to be able to get through day to day, I just have to believe that it is. And
Yes.
maybe Momentum Fest is my small way to contribute to that.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's what I wish everybody would do, is just do whatever they can to contribute, right? So, and people have told me that just having these conversations every day have been life-giving for them, to just hear other, voices and all that stuff. I just do it because it's fun and it scratches my itch to connect with people. My wife teases me about going on a date every single day. That's what I do, right? But that's how I contribute. Like, your Momentum Fest is amazing, and figure out what that this iteration of having a mix of live and virtual is great too, because you still get a great roster of superstars, being there for the community and being fed as well as feeding. So
So
yeah.
that's like, do you feel that way as a presenter? Because probably all of you know, but in case you don't, Martin's presenting at the virtual
Yes.
event. Amazing. That was interesting what you just said about being fed but feeding also. Like, do you feel as a presenter, because people would look at the presenters and think, oh, they're the ones I'm learning from, but I'm guessing you would feel that you're getting fed as much as giving. Like, is that how you feel when you teach?
Yes. And well, in two ways. One, when I teach, because you get that feedback and people ask questions and you see, like, I just kind of clock everything in there. So now if I'm teaching and I see things and I have to give new cues, and I'm like, oh, I haven't used that cues before because I haven't seen someone do that before. So then that's in the database for next time. Maybe I'll say that proactively instead of having to. So there's that learning for me. But then there's also the other speakers. So, like, I'm not gonna lie, that anyone who speaks before me, I probably won't see because I'm too nervous preparing for mine. But everybody after me, I'm there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so that's interesting what you said about feedback, because I feel like virtually, obviously, the feedback we get is so different than what we ever got live teaching. So last year, when we had to do a really quick pivot and do, um, I'm laughing at using the word pivot because I bet most of you never want to hear that word again. I don't, but I used it anyway. But when we had to quickly change to virtual, one of the biggest questions using Zoom was, do we do the webinar format or do we do the regular format where you see squares? And we're talking like 150 squares sometimes.
Great.
We really thought, oh, we'll just do webinar, right? I mean, that was the box of kind of Pilates a little bit, is we do webinar. I mean, it's clean, people will learn, no one will be distracted. And something made us last minute say, no, we want those squares. Like, we're gonna do it. And afterwards, that was probably one of the biggest positive feedbacks we got from attendees and
Yes.
teachers, was that even though it's chaos and we had to mute everyone coming in. I mean, with that many people, you just have to. You felt that vibe, like just knowing
Yes.
there were people on the other side. And I know there's times the web
Yes.
really well, but for this, like, really from the moment we created Momentum Fest, connection was one of the tenets of it. And I feel like those little squares virtually are connection. They just are, and you're waving and you see friends and you see the names and who's there.
Yes.
You're scrolling to see who else is there on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
One of my favorite things.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because when I was, logging in for some of the, the seminars, the sessions, I recognized, I was like, oh, like, everyone's here. Like, you log on, you figure it's just gonna be like the person presenting, and then it's just like, whoa, whoa, like, whoa, whoa. There's like a million people here. And what I thought was cool about that too was that you see people holding their baby, and someone's making dinner, someone's throwing the workout down. Like, people are there. They're just trying to be there.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like, that's the thing. Like, they are legit trying to be there. I'm stirring a pot, I'm holding a baby, I'm talking this, I'm feeding a kid, I'm doing homework, and I'm watching this at the same time because they want to be there. So we're making it so that they can be there. That is so powerful
Yep.
in that
I,
way, right? So
I agree. I agree. And I know it is interesting because I know we're all, I've heard that so much, that Zoom fatigue, everyone's virtual fatigue. But at the same time, this is going to be a new part of our world. I mean, it's not going away, and I don't want it to, because it
no,
means
right.
that Maria Earle in Spain and Labrice in Switzerland, it means that they can come teach where
Yes.
maybe they couldn't, especially with Maria with a young child. Like, maybe they couldn't. I mean, how amazing that we're realizing the potential of that to bridge that connection. So I think
Right.
it's interesting to see how all of this pans out, and You
Hmm.
know, and I think some people have really found their niche virtual too and have realized, gosh, this is
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. Yeah, and we've normalized it for our clients and customers too. So now it's not like this option C. You
Right.
know, it's actually some people prefer it, right? So
Open again there. You see people in person or are you only virtual?
no, yeah, we're virtual. Like this, I have the benefit of being in an essential services clinic.
Okay.
So we're open, doors locked, but I'm open. But for the most part, we're on a full shutdown right now.
Far. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. It is what it is. It's-
I
yeah. You said something earlier, Jessica, and it just reminded me of a conversation I had with my 14-year-old. We're saying, you know, we're doing what we can, and we're making the best of it, and we're all these different things. I I introduced him to the term controlling the controllables. Like, and we've heard that in corporate speak all the time, and like things are controllable, but just control the controllables. I had to break that down for a 14-year-old,
yeah.
and it's almost like it came alive for me again.
Yep. And what controllables do you feel like? Do you have a few that are really personal that you're like, this is what I control that helps me a lot?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I'll keep it within the context of him. He's trying to stress out. He's stressed out about having a lot of homework and then having a basketball practice and then spending the day helping me do something and then all of a sudden the weekend's gone and then his assignments due on Monday. And I was like, well, controlling controllables means like you can, you know, you have this much time left. You can do these things. These are the things that are in your power,
Right.
and these things are not in your power, right? And you have to go to this basketball practice, and I want you to just play as hard as you can, have fun, enjoy the fact that you're competent at something. Like you can do that. You don't have to think. You can just be there and enjoy that, enjoy your friends and stuff like that, and then go home. And then we have this much time left in the day. We can carve it out in this. And for me, it's the same thing. I can get stressed about the fact that I have, you know, a million deadlines and these things are coming up. It's like, well, what can I do with the time I have right now? Am I making the most of this second? How about I just lock my phone in the car for like 3 hours? So I'm not looking at it every 7 seconds while I'm trying to do a task, making that 15-minute task take an hour because I keep responding to people. Those are controlling the controllables. Like, how do we lock off some of those distractions and really just, you know, head down and get something done?
Yep. That I'm working on that thing with the phone too. I think that has been one of the things that hasn't helped me the most over the last. Love the connection online, but somehow, like you said, we feel like we need to be there immediately online versus my friends and family in real life. I don't feel that way. If someone texts me, I'm happy to give it till the end of the day when I can sit and answer texts. Never text me back.
And they're hearing that for the first time. Yes.
Why do we feel that we need to do that online or will? And this is crazy to me when I really sat like for a week. Sometimes I'll sit with things and occasionally a word will come up. And with that one, it was irrelevant. And I realized,
Yes.
oh my gosh, that is somehow, somewhere, what I think that if I'm not there immediately, like this 24-hour news cycle idea, you know, social media is even less, like 4 hours, it feels like.
Right, right.
If I'm not there answering or seeing what's happening, am I irrelevant? And that, I mean, when you put it that way to yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. No, I mean, I have kids, I have business, all of that can be done without even getting online. So what is it
Yes.
that makes you think social media decides our relevance?
Decides it.
Yeah,
Right.
really.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's good. It's a good wake up call, right? Like that's the check that we need, like every now and then to just be like, okay, yeah, like I'm gonna log off for a couple days and like over the weekend. And it's interesting how you do it and you feel the sense of being refreshed and not being connected. And then every now and then you have this intermittent like panic, and then you're like, no, I'll be okay. Like, you know, like
no, what am I really missing? Probably nothing. And I'll say I use social media for my news also,
mhm.
because the news isn't the healthiest place for me to be. So a lot of times social media is my news to find out things that are happening. And that's not good either. So for me personally, I'm still working on what that boundary is.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is an interesting thing to understand and be so thankful for it. I would never
Yes.
be so thankful for it. But how can I use it to actually make me better at what I do instead of make me worse at what I do?
Yeah, exactly. Distract you from what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. For the sake of those people who are watching or maybe watching later who are at different points in their Pilates or kind of fitness professional path, can you just brag for a second about like you have a YouTube page, you have your on-demand stuff, you've been running, how long have you been running these conferences for? Just talk about some of just the components of your business because, and the reason why I'm saying that too is because everyone thinks that, not everyone, but many people think that the crown jewel of Pilates is to have your storefront, beautiful Pilates studio, right?
Yes.
And you found success, your version of success, doing it in different ways. So can you just talk about like that?
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is you have to be willing to be okay with success changing. So
Mhm.
I graduated from PT school in 2000, so a long time ago. And that was, I didn't even know what Pilates was. I hadn't heard of it. So I went straight into an outpatient orthopedic job, seeing 20 patients a day. And I had to hit those numbers or I didn't make the right amount of money. And I mean, that was very typical back then. So that was my job.
Yes.
20 patients a day, boom, boom, boom. And that was success to me. Success was absolutely having benefits, getting a 9 to 5 job. And I was stoked. And then someone came in and said, "Hey, we're bringing Pilates to the clinics. Who wants to get trained?" And I'm like, "Free training? Sure. Yes. What's that?"
Right.
And, and then this was about a year later. There was a gym, a really high end gym downtown Denver that was next door to our clinic that came and said, "All right, we're losing our Pilates director. Would you like to come in and interview?" And I was 23 years old. And it was a commission based job. I mean, it's everything that I'm like, no, I don't do.
Hmm.
But I interviewed for experience and I got it. And that was my first experience with, okay, success is, it's going to look different because there's no guarantees of money, there's no benefits. But I think success to me now is trying something new and seeing if I can do it. Like these people have
Yes.
this young girl and seeing if I can do it. And it worked for a couple of years. It was awesome. And then it was time for me to do something else. We moved to Hawaii and I did open my own studios. And same, I'm like, I am never going to sell. Like you said, this is the epitome of everything I've ever wanted. I had a staff of 19. We had 2 locations. And then we had our daughter. And within a year, I'm like, this, again, this is now not success to me because
Mm.
it was just personal. I can't handle all of this. I'm
Yeah.
not doing what I'm supposed to do. So I sold and I never thought I would do that. And then I went online and I never thought I would have done that. So to me is I just never say never anymore. And I try to be really open to what path is in front of me. Women's health is the same. I never thought I would specialize in women's health. And then my own body took me to those places and I couldn't
Yes.
say no to giving that information out.
Right.
So
A
I
lot of
think it's,
people do say no.
go ahead, what?
A lot of people do say no, just like they make it their thing. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I think about that too because you're so great at just being vulnerable with your health journey, and many times people just keep that to themselves. That's their own burden. And they just
That's true. And
right.
I think Brene Brown talks about being ready to share your story,
Yes.
but not until you've moved through the healing of it yourself.
Hmm.
That has really been helpful to me. Like I've realized when I feel the itch to share something online and it's personal, I know myself and I have to wait a couple days. So I'm like, is this just me wanting to react to something I read and share my
Yes.
experience? And sometimes that's not a place of healing. That's a place of, I just need to share this. And so I sit
Yes.
back days and realize, nope, that's too vulnerable. Like there's still a few things in my life that I kind of keep, that because they don't help other people or I
Right.
haven't healed from them or it's not really a part of what I talk about.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, if you've moved through healing and you feel like, gosh, there is something I have to share and you can come at it from a place of education and encouragement, I think
Yes. Yep.
that's what I found. So that when she
That's been
talked about that,
helpful.
powerful to me.
Mhm. So then the women's health piece is now, do you feel like this is kind of like where you're at and continue to cultivate that?
I think so, and that too, when you were talking about talking to people about, where they are in their journeys, I think for sure be open to things and iterating, but also realizing what at the core of it, what you love to do. Because I know at the core, I'm a physical therapist. I love anatomy. I love talking injuries and biomechanics. I love to teach, whether it's teachers or students, and I love to empower, especially women. So
Yeah.
when I look at the things I love to do and what falls under that, women's health definitely does. And some of it too was realizing who maybe I'm not for. Because I
Hmm.
started out thinking, especially online, I just want to, Pilates helps everyone. I want to talk to everyone. I want to talk to the athlete and the man, and then the 21-year-old who wants a six pack, and the 70-year-old who had a hysterectomy. I'm going to talk to all of them. You can't. You just can't when it comes to demographics. So I was looking at who was messaging me from my content, and it over and over and over again, it was women. Thank you for talking about this. No one else is. Thank you for seeing.
Yes.
I live on a military base and can't get physical therapy for my prolapse. So thank you so much for giving me this. I'm like, I can't ignore who's talking to me. So another thing from a
Right.
practitioner, look at who's talking to you and resonating, and talk back to them.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you're the
I
one out
love that.
there, X. You're the one out there doing the athletic stuff, and Labrice is out there doing amazing stuff with men. Like you said at the very beginning, I don't need to be. That's
You don't
not
need to.
me.
Yeah.
So
You
I
can
don't.
find rest in that. Like, I mean, there's a sense of relief that like people aren't coming to me for women's health issues. Like I'm like, I have this great friend who can answer your questions way better than I can.
Yeah,
So,
I agree, and I think then actually it gives you more credibility when you do refer out, because clients and or whoever it is says, "Oh, they're so confident in what they do that then they're willing to spread that out to other people too." Like I think it really creates actually more respect for you from a client perspective, and then the relationships you form with other people. I mean, there's just nothing like.
absolutely. That never gets old. Maybe the word pivot gets old, but that story never gets old. Like I think that the more we say that and we refer and we build relationships, the better we are in this biz. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So speaking of, so TRX, because everyone
Yes.
doesn't know about Momentumfest, Martin is teaching TRX because, well, there's lots of reasons. I think it was an awesome idea. But another one of the big parts about Momentumfest was exactly what you said at the beginning of what people are passionate about and letting them rock that, like in your wheelhouse. So,
Mhm.
like, I don't think I knew until you talked to me about that TRX was a big part of what you do. So, how did that start?
Well, I've personal training has always been my thing, and I've always leaned towards functional training when I was before I was doing Pilates. So it never was like bodybuilding guy and like those guys who do a lot of like training people for competitions and stuff. I was always functional training, working with athletes, and I connected with the guys at TRX. And long before, like at the conferences, people would come and be like doing all these different things as trainers. I was always, helping out every time they came to Canada. So over the years, I just started working with TRX and like learning, and I'd be a coach at their conferences, and I just really dove deep on all of their work. So it's a really practical tool. I used to teach Tabata classes and boot camps, and I'd always weave that in because I love the core work. I love the stability that came out of it. And then as I started to do more Pilates, and I started to really shift my brand towards like real men do Pilates and all these things. Um, I just kept that going. And we craft a brand and we want people to see that we do one thing, but that doesn't mean I ever stop doing the other thing. So, people laugh when they see, actually I personally get mad. They see me do like a bicep curl in the video. I'm like, wow, you still work out? I was like, yeah, I work out. Of course I work out. But because I want people to know about Pilates and men doing Pilates, that's where all of my social media attention comes to. But I've been doing TRX forever. I've coached with them since the 90s, probably like early 2000s. Right, like since they just came out, like doing first competitions with them when they were just rolling out their first suspension trainer. So, and I've taught their courses. And now that I'm in Pilates, I see that it's a real easy portable piece that you can have hanging off any piece of apparatus in your studio. If you have, a personal training background, it's easy to integrate it. And I feel like it's just another tool in our toolbox. Like,
Yeah.
Pilates is one thing, but the whole movement, like Pilates is just, this is my whole soapbox about Pilates itself. It's not its own silo. It is exercise, it is fitness, it is movement, it is health, it is all those things. That is just one corner of the fitness industry. So how many tools do you have in your toolbox,
And I
right? So,
what I loved about it when you brought it up, I think also it helps us have verbiage to talk to our clients because so Martin's doing a TRX and it's in our virtual platform, but like you don't need a TRX at home to be able to watch this amazing session. You can sit and realize, you know what, I have a client who told me they have a TRX hanging from their garage and I didn't tell them to do with it. So now I can watch this 1 hour, class and
mhm,
get ideas and have better verbiage to talk to them about.
totally. Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
what I love about, like you said, all these movement modalities. It helps us, but it also just gives us verbiage to talk to people. And maybe it even helps us realize, oh, you know what? I thought I would love that, and I actually don't. So I'm going to move on to something else,
Right, exactly.
which is fine too. Like you said, it's so funny when people see us doing different things. But that we're movement. We love movement. Like that's why we got into what we do. It
Right.
doesn't
Full
start
stop.
loving Pilates,
Right.
but you love movement in some way, shape, or form.
Yes. Just like I love push-ups.
Yes, that's Martin's other class. Is push up hour is going to be too because it is because we all need interesting ideas for the push up.
Yes. And yeah, exactly. And it's the last exercise in the repertoire. And usually we're like, okay, we'll skip push-ups for today. Let's just do a roll up and I'll see you next Tuesday.
This is an option. You don't even just do
Yeah,
child.
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's sort of thing. So I want to unpack that. My wife has a great line. She taught group fitness forever, and she would say it's called a push up, not a fall down. So let's find that spot to which you can push yourself back up from.
You
Let's
need to
build,
tell her.
yes. So yeah, so that's exactly it. So I want to unpack that, show all the exercises that set that up. How are planks, active planks, some TRX speak. I see Michelle there, and she's a TRX trainer as well. Like there's some TRX speak that ties into that nicely, like our apples not applesauce,
Nice.
lines like that come in to get us into an active plank. And then we realize that a push-up is nothing more than a dynamic plank. So how do we get everything engaged and connected and set that up so that over time you can execute a push-up? I've worked with teams of elite athletes and spent an hour and done one push-up with them.
I can't wait.
And just getting to that place where they can understand how it's supposed to feel, what's supposed to be connected, and then take that back as homework, and then give you some words to be able to teach your clients with it and give them some homework so that everyone can finish with a push-up. You
Yeah.
should be able to own your body weight, like full stop. So,
Yeah. And you mentioned are there, like just to give you guys another idea, Michelle is teaching Zumba at our live event. So she'll be here with us live. And how awesome is that? Like, how awesome is that we get to move and do Zumba together? Like, what other conference or festival have you been to that you get to do that and laugh at yourself and have fun? I mean, that's why it's called Momentumfest, Pilates and Movement Festival, because
yes,
it was developed a little bit for our industry because we had nothing like this, and I personally was desperate for it. Like the yoga world has so many things like this
yes,
do, and Pilates never did. But a big part of it was we are going to wrap so many different movement modalities into this and bring in different personalities that you've never seen before in your typical Pilates world, and people who are rocking their own niche in their own corner of this, and let's lift them up and show you
yes,
possible. Like show you that if you're a Zumba instructor, that's awesome too. You take that back to your clinic or your studio if you want to.
yes,
No shame. There's no room for shame. Zero. There's zero room for
yes. I think you need to be a bit more passionate about this, though, Jessica.
Yeah, I am passionate about it a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Those, but what you just said there is so true. Like celebrating movement is so key. And I know that I really had to put the blinders on to get deep into this classical work and understanding Pilates and just learning the origins. And like John Claude Nelson said, like you listen to a song and then you want to hear the original version of it. Where did they get that sample from? So you want to understand like what was that first record that Tribe Called Quest got that sample for that rap song from. Like you want to learn the original. So I dove deep into originals, and now as I've gotten further along in my Pilates journey, I'm starting to reintegrate everything else that I've learned. And like I feel like this festival is a great spot to reintegrate those things, to reignite something you used to do, bring that back to your studio. And then we are truly movement specialists. Like we're not just Pilates instructors, we're not just personal trainers. Like this whole world of movement, like Joel Crosby's there. He does everything from like kettlebells to, like all that stuff counts, right? And you have Pilates. It's just another tool in your toolbox.
Yep, for sure. And I love bringing it all together. And then even like Amy Taylor Alpers will be at our live event too, and she's teaching classical mat Pilates. Like that's her class. So because
Yes.
that, I mean, that's the origins, right? And so just knowing how your body moves. And two, for all the teachers listening, another big reason we created Momentum Fest was a possibility for students just to come. Like this isn't just for teachers. These are all 1 hour classes. They're not workshops. You are not sitting there taking notes. You are like moving and it's a visceral experience. And so students are welcome too. So like invite your students to come
Mhm.
move with you and learn with you and laugh with you. And that's really, some of the purpose of it is that we're all learning together with each other. Nobody knows each other's lineages. We don't worry about that. We're just humans in a movement experience.
Nice. When I had this like this kind of flashback when I was teaching my Tabata classes and my TRX classes. One of my one of the people in the class was a Zumba instructor, so we planned it so that she would come downstairs, do my Tabata class, and I bring my whole Tabata class upstairs and do her Zumba class. Best experiences ever. Super fun seeing 60-year-old guys that have two left feet in there with these like crazy fit ladies who only do Zumba for a living, right? You know what I mean? So you get this cross section, but really what we're doing is just building relationships. So when it comes down to it, yeah, bring your clients, bring your favorite class. As a class, we're gonna jump onto this Zoom class and watch this Momentum Fest thing together for our day today. Like you have
Yep,
so much fun with it in that way.
for sure. I agree. That's what it's about, making it your own. And that's really life, I guess, right? Is just finding the things that maybe take you outside of your comfort zone a little bit. Like maybe you
Mhm.
click buy and buy that ticket if you don't know what it is. And you're like, this is crazy. I'm just used to traditional CEC stuff. What is this? And then you take what works for you from it with you, and things that don't work you leave behind. Totally fine. You don't
Yep.
have to become an expert in everything. It's just fun to learn and start to think of possibilities outside of the boxes we live in, I think.
Yes. Oh, and speed networking.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, so this is going to be awesome. So typically our in-person event, we have like a happy hour thing that happens Friday. We have a party that happens Saturday night. We're revisioning that in this current world and what that's going to look like. But it's really important. So one thing to know is you buy either an in-person ticket or a virtual ticket, and they are separate events catered to those attendees. So like the virtual event isn't just live streamed live event. It's actually Martin and instructors who couldn't come be with us in person who are going to be teaching you awesome stuff online. So it's catered to you. So I'm like, I would love to do some kind of party then for the virtual events. And I really couldn't think of anyone who's done a better online party than you with your speed networking events, which I've been a part
Yes.
of. Super fun. So I reached out to Martin and said, would you like to be a sponsor and host a speed networking event? And he said, yeah. Luckily, he wasn't on his weekend social media sabbatical. I think he said yes right away. um,
Yes.
that's going to be awesome too. Yeah, that'll be Saturday for all virtual attendees.
Mhm.
Martin's going to host it and sponsor it. It's going to be awesome. Just that way to meet so many people and chat and talk about the day. And it's going to
Yeah.
be awesome.
It's gonna be so fun.
Yeah.
Those are so fun. I
Like,
would say yes to that like in a heartbeat. Like I just love what you're doing, and if we circle back to our success talk from the beginning, when I see people flowing in their gifts, like I'm all about that. Like if you ask me, I'm there because I want to, celebrate that and just affirm that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You are in the right place at the right time in this time for that. So yeah, I have to say yeah.
that's about you too. And so many people come. I'm just humbled, to be honest. Like, because it's funny. I appreciate you talking about gifts, but I will tell you from a logistical standpoint, like that's not my gift. So that's why, luckily, my husband is co-founder because he was the one yesterday working on this software and on a call. How do we put this in for registration? And my brain like
Yeah.
shut down. Like I didn't understand the word being said. I just shut down. But I think what I realize is like all the presenters who write in, when you guys write in all of your class ideas, and then we think about who can sponsor this, who's really good at this, who can do this. That's what makes me so excited and why I love this so much is it really is just lifting other people up to do
Mhm.
what they're so good at when
Yes.
maybe they haven't had a platform to do it yet. Because that's what I felt like in the Pilates world for a long time was I wanted to share. I wanted to help develop the industry. I wanted to do so many things to make it better.
Mhm.
And I was either told you're not the right lineage, or you haven't been doing this long enough, or who are you? We don't know your name.
Yep.
And so to be able to be a facilitator in that way is just so exciting. Like that's what lights me up and gets me excited.
Sure, absolutely. This is going to sound like a weird question, but do you have any enemies? Do you have anyone who has pushed back against this whole concept at this point? You don't have to say their name or anything, but just curious as to what their beef would be.
At it more as people who were put there maybe to push and help me more. So this was after maybe the first event. So I remember it really clearly. So I was at the PMA conference after our first event. So people kind of knew, they're like, oh, there's a new,
New Kid
people
in
saw
Town.
a new game in town. And I never really
Yes.
ever saw it as competition because I was trying to do something very different actually. But I know from a big eagle viewpoint, it did look like competition probably. So I was at the PMA conference and someone who I knew and I respected, we had worked professionally before. She's been in the industry a very long time, very big name. So she came up to me and just looked at me and said, I don't get it. And I'm like, what? She said, I don't get Momentumfest. I don't get it at all. Why would I do it? Why would anyone go? And we had a conversation for a minute and we walked away and I thought about that a lot because it hit me. I'm like, I bet there's a lot of people out there who think that. And I took it more as, you know what, we are not doing a good enough job communicating maybe or marketing what we are
The
or what we,
uniqueness of it.
yeah, or what we aren't, both,
Yes.
for people to not get it. And so I think I sent an email pretty quickly after that because we might have been selling tickets. And I made sure to, we would talk to our copywriters and stuff. I'm like, let's make sure we say maybe who we aren't for and that it's okay if we're not for you. And
Yes.
what's interesting then is I saw her again at the next PMA conference and she came up and she's like, we want to get involved. I want a booth. I want to sponsor. This is exciting. And so that's more, I would say, the pushback
That's the
that we
pushback.
that people who had been in this industry for a long time just didn't understand at all why we would do something like this. What's the
Mhm.
difference or what's the point? And what I found is if we just get someone there, they'll see. Like they'll see what the difference is. But it was a good lesson as a business owner or anyone trying to get your message out. Don't assume that your message is getting out to the people. Like really, really look at who's buying, who's talking to you, who gets it. And that's kind of our ambassador program. A lot of things like that is trying to get the word out to different communities because I know
Yes.
it has to come from more people than just us.
Right. Yes. That's a good lesson. That's a really good life lesson. Like life lesson, not just a
But
momentum fest lesson. Right?
now I'm like, or Pilates, right? The same. We'll say the same cue over and over because that's the cue that makes sense to our brain.
Right.
And they'll hear a cue from one other teacher, right? That one, and they're like, I got it. And it doesn't mean that your message was wrong. It means they needed to hear it in a different way.
Yes.
So I think we do need to realize that as teachers, as parents, as kids, as business owners, that we need to not only talk in the way we want to hear, but we need to talk in a way our a client or child or whatever needs to hear.
Spouse.
Yes, that's an
Yes.
important one.
Right. So I just like slide that in at 24 minutes. Like we have like, yeah, yes. Nice. Well, that's exciting. I know you got a busy day, and that's why we pushed this up half an hour. So, um, thank you so much for joining me, Jessica.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And thank you for doing it early. Or Mark
Hmm.
2 days ago, it's like, oops, I have to take my kids to school.
That's
Like,
life, man.
I don't even know what's happening with school anymore. But so thank you for pushing it early. And yeah, anyone watching, so Momentum Fest is June 25th through 27th. Just go to our website, momentumfest.com, and you'll see everything you need to know. And you can DM me personally if you want, and I can answer questions, or I can push you off to anyone who has the answers.
Yeah.
Um, that's probably about all you need to know.
There you go.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay, I will send you the replay of this, and you can chop it up and just recycle it however we need over the next like
awesome.
month and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, we have I think 2 months.
Yes.
2 months. Yeah,
It's gonna be awesome.
yeah. Things are looking good. Weather's getting warmer. I'm gonna. I've got my grateful shirt on. That's where I'm gonna land today. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll sign you off. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you, Michelle. I see you, Joel. Yeah, all kinds of awesome people here. Please follow all these people,
Yep.
cheer them on, all they're doing, and we're good to go.
All
Awesome.
right.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
See
Thanks.
ya.
Yeah.